Good evening, everyone. Welcome to TSB First Friday's October edition. Every month, we set the stage for the talented writers and creatives in our community to share their work with us. I'm so glad that you're here with us this evening. My name is Tally Veron. I'm the founder and publisher at the Soapbox Press, and I'm so excited to be your host tonight. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that although we're gathering in a virtual space, the Soapbox Press rests on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We encourage you to learn the history of the land you are currently on as we reflect on the past and acknowledge the changes that can be made going forward in the process of truth and reconciliation. In a few short moments, I'll welcome our first performer to our virtual stage. But before I do, let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping. To ensure the most enjoyable experience for all of us here, I recommend using Speaker View, which you can switch on in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Closed captions can also be enabled by pressing the captions button on the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Lastly, I encourage you to use the chat box throughout the event to share your love with our performers and also to talk to each other. Now, I'd like to welcome our first performer to the stage. Kayla Gallacher is a writer, poet, and activist who has been published by the Northern Appeal, Lucent Dreaming, and the Soapbox Press. She's spoken at York Region's Take Back Night March in 2019, and her poetry has been featured on the Introverted Activist blog. Let's all welcome Kayla.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. So I'm going to be reading my first poem, which is called Raindrops Fall. Raindrops, it falls. Life in rain blurs, pours. Light streaks, burns in reflections on running water. We run from one life to find another. Rain drops and water falls. Some here, between here and there, we stopped caring, staring, bleeding, we broke. Our sobs subsided, but we are still flooding. Water is all that cradles us now. Raindrops, it falls. Nowhere was the last place we had to run, dark skies seething, grinning, waiting, meeting. The storm, a manifestation of truth inside a storm, is all that cradles us now. Raindrops, waterfalls, raindrops, we fall. How, why, did we, could we have ended up here drowning again? Raindrops, it falls, we drop, fall into this world of waterfalls and storms and oceans and tears and raindrops. We fall, we break, we bleed, skies growl, rain streams down, stained windows, tainted reflections. Rain doesn't heal the break, we are still bleeding, pain is an imprint that remains. Raindrops, it falls, we watch them watch, waiting thunder reverberates through violently gray skies. We walk on sleet slick concrete, the ground beneath our feet trembles, fear us. Rain falls still. In a world of waterfalls and oceans and storms, rain drops. It falls. Water's nature, the calm chaos, my screams, streaming art, storms are as they unfold. Come together in parts, witnessing the turn into chaos and violence. We are storms, blind to our wholeness, because when rain drops, we fall. The second poem I will be reading for you is called Growth. The year progresses in tandem. Earth turns as a wheel, cycles are renewed. There is strain on the spokes as our lives evolve gradually into something new. Our hair will grow longer, while days will fall short. Summer will fade as autumn takes hold. Life will retreat incrementally, then all at once summer's gone. Leaves flare in prismatic hues of fire, sunlight, and crimson, till the last of the lucky leaves fall from their branches to, come spring, renew the soil's cycle. Awaiting winter spreads its fingers, fall braces against the cold, nights are longer, days less steady. Every season passes into something new, and this is the constant, the truth we embrace. Between grains of sand that fall from our hands in tandem with every fading season, these cycles, our lives, remain like soil awaiting growth. And that is all the poetry I'm going to be sharing tonight. Thank you all for listening.
Oh, whoops. Thank you so much, Kayla. That was wonderful. What a way to start off our evening. Next, I would like to welcome Lynn to the stage. Lynn is a Vietnamese Canadian immigrant and writer, passionate about examining depictions of marginalized identities in popular culture and creating space for underrepresented voices in mainstream media. Her words have been published in Loose Leaf Magazine, The New York Times, and more. Let's welcome Lynn.
Thank you, Tally. I'm going to be reading a personal essay today. This is a short story, creative nonfiction piece that I wrote earlier this year. It's called Death in a Wind Farm. I only went because my grandfather died. The plan had been Europe, horseback riding in the Spanish countryside, savoring custard tarts in Porto, and castle hopping in Bavaria. I was in Seville, coming out of a flamenco show when I received the news. Since we'd immigrated to Toronto 13 years ago, I'd only returned to Vietnam sparingly. The last time I'd spent 3 days in my hometown of Hanoi. When we parted on the doorstep, my grandfather had tears in his eyes. Living half a world away, I knew to prepare for goodbyes that would be forever, but I got complacent. I truly thought I would see him again. He had survived severe appendicitis, kidney failure, and years on dialysis. He had lived through a revolution and 2 wars. He had learned Portuguese in his 50s just for fun. Even into his 80s, he leapt at every opportunity to travel or to share his poetry. I pieced the final story together while booking my flight to Hanoi. It had ended in a sudden heart failure. 10 minutes of gasping, quickly, slowly, and then he was gone. I came back to my family to grieve, to open arms and a simple welcome home, we've missed you, that broke me. In the afternoon light, I took walks with my grandmother, hand in hand under the shade of cherry trees, and I sat with her by the koi pond. Every morning and night, I lit incense on my grandfather's altar, and I watched the sky try desperately to be blue. The cruelty of it all only struck me in the days following his funeral, that my sweet aunt, who had been the giver her whole life, bore the burden of standing alone with him as he died. That my mother had been heading home anyway, on her way to Pearson Airport when the call came in. I was 1 day late, she said, and I told her, shaking. He knew I was coming and he didn't wait for me. The days dragged as the house mourned, and when routine began to find its feet, I stood in a half-forgotten home, with a month abruptly devoid of plans. Headed to the Mekong Delta on a week-long business trip, my aunt offered me the chance to tag along. I agreed, and we left on a Monday morning before dawn. We were waiting in the lobby of a hotel in Cần Thơ when the tour agency called to say that every trip I'd booked for the week was canceled. It was low season, not enough travelers, they apologized. I sat toying with the idea of making my way around alone, but certain points would be impossible to reach by bus, and the hastiness of the trip meant that I was wholly unprepared. I'll take a day off, my aunt said finally. We can hire a car, see the neighboring provinces. It'd be a waste to miss. So in the pitch black of 5 a.m. that Thursday, in the streets along the Cần Thơ River lined with wastes, our car picked us up for our day trip south. My grogginess dissipated when I saw the sun rise over a foggy plain on a lonely road in Ho Giang, We stopped the car to stare at the light clinging to the grass, the red, gold, and green of the fields. Contrary to the tour itinerary, our driver suggested we drive straight to Camo in the morning to see the main attractions first: the mangrove forest, the speedboat tour, the southernmost tip of the country, and return for the lesser-known sites along the way back. We didn't arrive at the wind farm until sunset. Having done no prior research to coming, I'd only heard of it from my aunt, who often worked in the area. She insisted it was not to be missed, despite not being the top attraction in Baguio. With 62 turbines at 80 meters high, the slender white windmills span far offshore in the clear gray sea. I stepped onto the dock, and the sky opened before me, a perfect blue with ballooning white clouds. The breeze spun the vanes lazily, and we were alone. The sun was as gold as when it had risen that morning, spilling over the marsh where newts squirmed in the mud. We watched as it burned red and began to dip. The clouds darkened, the sky turned lavender and pink. Reflected in the ocean, the windmills stood tall amidst a watercolor painting. I'd come home to mourn, and I expected to find nothing beyond, yet here was a scene to bring gods to their knees. I stood in awe, watching the tinges of light stream across the landscape, and marveled at the plans that had to go wrong, the sorrow that had to be shared, and the coincidences that had to line up to bring me there and then. With his 6 grandchildren in 6 different cities abroad, my grandfather had always wanted us to see the beauty of our roots and our home. He was a proud man, a loyal man. He lectured us about the resilience of our people, the strength of our history, the richness of our country. We rolled our eyes, then left to build new lives oceans away. I remembered in that moment that the heart failure that had killed him had not been his first. The first had happened months before, hours after my youngest cousin left home for good. Chaurai Ilkui was what he always called me, cherished granddaughter. I stood at the edge of the sea that night and stared at the most beautiful sun sinking lower, lower, and then it was gone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. That was beautiful. And I was trying really hard not to cry because I knew I would have to come back. But what I also realized was that I missed reading half of Lynn's bio. So I'm just going to read it now before we move on to our next performers. So Lynn also holds an HBA in English from the University of Toronto and specializes in writing creative nonfiction and children's literature. Her ongoing projects include the revision of 2 manuscripts, a memoir on leaving home, and a children's portal fantasy completed for NaNoWriMo in 2018. Next, I would like to welcome Confessions of a Lady to the stage. Confessions of a Lady represents a woman's personal journey through love and healing. She embarked on her mission to share, inspire, and bring comfort to others in 2019. Through countless late nights spent alone with her journal, she could feel herself beginning to heal. From the grief she experienced earlier that year through to the deterioration and eventual end of a long-term relationship. Writing gave her the wings she needed to carry herself through these challenges. Poetry brought her comfort in a way nothing else could. Today, she is well on her way towards solace, having found a love that is both kind and loving. Let's welcome Confessions of a Lady to the stage.
Hi everyone, just give me a moment to pull up my poems. Today I'm going to be reading a series of poetry on love that I've written over the last few months based on my experiences, and I hope you enjoy. I once read that to love is a choice. Now there are days when I ask why. Why does love feel hard sometimes? When I look into your eyes, mine confess how deeply I believe in us, while your eyes tell everything else. I drive home at the end of the day, and all I see and think in passing somehow brings me back to you. At first glance, I thought you were so unlike me. You spoke differently, even though we came from the same place. You were reserved, yet well-versed at sharing your thoughts. You were kind, making me feel safe, keen on keeping an open mind, accepting where I was, embracing me for who I am, with arms outstretched every time. I hear tints of feelings echoing in your voice. I won't remember most of the words we say, though I'll try to hold on to them dearly. Give me a little time. Let me breathe in the long hugs, the pauses, the moments of silence. Don't forget me when I'm gone. Please hold on a little longer. Trust me when I say I feel the same way. I knew I was safe by the presence of a hand guiding my back gently forward, by the softness in his eyes, by how he looked at me as though captivated at first sight every time, by his kindness, the kindest of hearts, always reminding me to be who I am. I believe in what you believe because I believe in you. I don't need proof or reassurance that what you believe to be true is true because you believe in it and I believe in you. By the countless ways you love me, I feel myself overflowing, forgiving any wrongdoing bestowed within this life. You are the inexplicable calm before a storm that never comes. It's 4 o'clock on a Saturday. By the sun reflecting on this hardwood floor, I see the shadow of a hand and smile knowing it's my own. I forgot what it's like spending days without talking to anyone. I once thrived in the ecstasy that comes from living unchained by time, by the scars brought upon me, pretending tomorrow did not matter as much as the day ahead. Well, that became a fallacy the night you said you loved everything about me. But after years of misguided love, the same words wouldn't come, until I kissed you and we drifted into a dream by the touch of our lips. You didn't speak to me, seemingly going your own way. I waited to see what you would decide when I placed no expectation. I put on a brave face. As most days, you surprised me. Here I was hoping you would come. Once you stood there, I felt lost. I still don't expect you to understand why I needed you there. Caught in my emotions, my eyes would dart until they met your gaze and the tears slowly came. You asked if I was going to be okay. After a pause, I answered, and then I wrote this poem, Sitting by the Sun. And those are the poems that I wanted to share today. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Next, I would like to welcome Natalie Simonian to the stage. Natalie is a 22-year-old master's student from Toronto working on fatty liver disease by day. By night, she writes poetry about the human experience. She began writing to process how she was feeling during my undergraduate years, and she found a safe space when putting her feelings into words. She writes to communicate thoughts and feelings that are deemed vulnerable. She hopes that if people read her words and if they resonate, they too will become okay with being vulnerable. Now let's welcome Natalie.
The first poem I'm going to read is called Ode to the Greatest Man I've Ever Known, and it's about my father. He waters my plants for me, and it's the reason I can't settle. Because when my mom is on the phone and she forgets her gloves in negative 10 degrees Celsius weather, and we've left our house when she realizes, frantically, that she forgot her gloves, and he pulls them out of his jacket pocket, I can't picture a life without that. Because even though his words can come across harsh, cacophonic, months later, when I'm in a very similar situation, I think back to what he meant when he said what he said, and I know it was what was best for me. Because even when we sit in silence over breakfast, eating honey and toast, I know there is unspoken grace, because without his genetic material, there would be no fundamentals, no trace. The next poem I'm going to be reading about is about Armenia and what's going on there right now. Right now, at this very moment, during a global pandemic, Armenia is under attack by Azerbaijan, which is backed by Turkey. So the poem is called Armenia Taught Me Perseverance. Generational scars were ripped open. First, in July 2020, then again in September 2020. The media sleeps with one eye open, looking out for scandal. Armenia sleeps with both eyes glued to the casualty toll. The unmistakable fall of barriers that kept hatred out for decades. Missed calls, no cellular data connection, and still 9,162 kilometers connection. These roots grow beneath the Earth's crust, the first seed planted in Yerevan. Denial has run its course. The timepiece has almost run out on the eternal hourglass. And still we rise, and still we rise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. So we're now halfway through tonight's performances, and I just feel so lucky that we are treated to such remarkable talent tonight. So thank you. Next, I would like to welcome Hadia Kuma to the stage. Hadia Kuma is a 20-year-old Indo-Guyanese writer and sociology student from Toronto. Her work seeks to examine rest and pleasure under capitalism, gentrification, platonic intimacy, and anxiety. Her poems, essays, and fiction have been published in places like The Rumpus, Yes Poetry, The Heart House Review, and Guts magazine. Her debut chapbook, Tired But Not Spectacularly, was published in 2019 by the Soapbox Press. Now let's welcome Hadia.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to be reading two poems that I've been currently working on for a manuscript. The first one is a prose poem about the second time I went to Montreal with two of my friends in the winter. And it was right before COVID-19 kind of kicked off. So when I read it now, I sort of just think about what life used to be like. Montreal. The city's dripping, the streets wider, more hills. I think everyone here must have strong calves. The water is soft enough, the sleep is moderate. The friend I fall asleep beside is tender. Abby is watching Hassan Minhaj's active hands and giggling. I'm afraid. It's not specific. Light hits and shines from everything my eyes touch. The only Minhaj clip I remember is from Homecoming King, in which the comedian recalls the horrific events of 9/11, in which he smiles, gestures to the memory of shards in his arm, in which he laughs and accounts, trying to wash off his brown skin in kindergarten, in which I consider what is problematic about the statement, I love this country. What is problematic about loyalty? What is local? What is dangerous? America is distant, America is close. Rue St. Catherine's ball of storefront light winds around our curtains. I check my phone. Right, it's the new year. Our bus home is at 6:30 a.m. the next morning. I text mom 6:30. I vote in the NBA All-Star draw. I remind my friends to vote. It feels American. All sports feel American. Canadians feel American. I want to write fear away. How universal, honestly. I ask Miranda if she's sleepy, she says no. I want to write about her face, but I'm too in the moment. I love watching competition, but I'm such a sore loser, always have been. I ponder and then embrace that. Abby tucks Hassan away. I text mom good night. Ease myself, like the duvet lies there at our feet. Unbothered, distant, unthinking. That was Montreal. The next one's called Birthday, which I wrote around my birthday last year. Actually, I think I wrote it at the end of January when a lot of weird things were happening just in the world. Sweet to be pan frying while mom sings the news away. Sapphire nails past midnight, I text all my friends safety. Pretend it's just because I like the tapping of keratin on my screen. Pretend I know what the word means just because that's how life goes. Remix, I don't ever want to miss you again. Shoulder to my mouth, I kiss the gerb of green mold on my sill. This apartment leaves me unread, but I adore its idiosyncrasies. The bathroom door's familiar friction. I never say I'll go. I never say finish. I want to stay sweet, to always be saving a planet, old planet, with you and your classic breakfast PJs. But how is it that each day is like another rooftop to bended sneaker, an almost totally lost version of romantic comedy? How is it that to start strong is only to prolong certain death, sudden in-exhale, and to be calm, to be trustworthy, to crave immortality, but to strike double at your sadness like you're actually ready for the algorithm's blow? To ride in bed unready, until already more than the entire decade before the month is up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hadia. It is always so exciting to hear new work of yours. Next, I would like to welcome Nat Bourgon to the stage. Writing poems is Nat's way of expressing his most authentic self. His poems seek to spark by implanting resonant truth in curious soil. He's published 2 poetry books, Overcast Backtalk, which was released in September 2016, and Fortitude Transplants, which was published in September 2018. Both books are available on Amazon.ca, which everyone should check out. He's currently writing new poems towards book number 3. Thank you, Nat. Take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Nat. I'm going to share a poem, a new one today, called You're Invited to a Listening Skills Spruce Up in Poem Form. A fungus has emerged on the toenails of our listening skills, and the only qualified antifungal ointment on call is our own selves. While the speaker is unfolding, our attention span is busy roaming. We're oblivious that their seemingly easygoing overtures are not meant to be confined to merely a monologue's stuffy cubicle, or subpar interactions' one-way street of conditions. We're treating our immersion level, or lack thereof, in their debriefing session as an optional backdrop to their montage of exposition, when to them, our attentiveness is the centerpiece. Our evasive, wavering concentration is as dismaying for them as if we decided to take an undisclosed mid-interaction nap. Full-on presence supplies no stool to our distractions, and no armchair to our apathy at the recurring meet and greet known as connectivity. Top to bottom presence is worth aspiring to. This is them summoning us to absorb their gist, and we're missing out. We're too preoccupied curating a flock of feedback to dish out. Prepping a response as if they're opening up indicates that they have a doting hankering for our input. Insert reality check here. We postponed the truth so many months, it fell right off the calendar entirely. A lazy reply's stone-cold, unflinching mechanics can feel so detached from being grasped. Can empathy please be sworn in as listening's new higher lead agent to uphold its mission statement? Because them sharing with us is not a census mail-out, with checkboxes disconcertingly patting our opinionated broadcast on the back. Them being vulnerable with us is not them wondering how to shepherd our commentary to resolution's ceiling. Us advising them is listening's chip tooth, where next steps overshadow their self-expression. Meanwhile, cognizance tops quality listening's wish list. They feel heard when we corroborate the legitimacy of their feelings, when we witness their arc's pendulum, validate the sandcastle of values they built, and cushion the spasms of their letdown seepage, without canvassing for updates on follow-up stability quest. Ideal listening asks us to refrain from compressing their custom narrative into a more relatable commonality or a shared experience, just to give ourselves a sweat-free entrance point, or to boost our own participation quota. Trying to appear supportive for brownie points is borrowing the local sorority's in-house logo to circulate the word about your own recently launched fraternity. It's plagiarizing partnership, not issuing advocacy as we need to be. Interruptions place our soft spot for flawed shortcuts above their willingness to undertake the grunt work. Good listeners don't emulate chattering talk show panelist training videos. Real listening is holding timeless, unpolluted space for their sometimes waning bouquet of sentiments, with our own personal incentives selflessly circumvented. We can do better. They deserve us putting our best ears forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nat. That was great. And everyone be sure to check out his books on Amazon. Next, I'm so excited to welcome Zara Tootensab to the stage. Zara Tootensab's poetry is fragmented and broken like her maman's English. As a kid, she wrote poems to help her cope with new places, faces, and emotions while traveling back and forth between Tehran and Toronto. She was born in Toronto and grew up in the Greater Toronto Area, specifically in Scarborough, Ontario. She recently graduated with the BSc degree in Life Sciences at the University of Toronto in 2019 and double majored in English and Biology. She is currently pursuing a Master of Arts in the English and Film Studies program at the University of Alberta. In March 2019, Zara published her first poetry chapbook titled The Aftertaste. Now let's welcome Zara.
Thank you, Tally, and thank you so much for having me today. So this poem embodies all my experiences in Edmonton when I first moved to Edmonton last year as a Muslim woman of color and being away from my family and meeting other Muslims and other people in Edmonton. This poem is called To All the Hairs Inside Us. I took the tweezer and pulled a piece of hair stuck in my ear I couldn't hear for a week. I cut it short before moving from Toronto to Edmonton. You look like a boy under some colored hijab. A month later, I'm pulling a black hair out of my left ear. How much ass do you have under them layers? Layer goods, babe. I couldn't hear sour. White man in the bus at 1 a.m., hiding in the backseat drunk. Cliche, starving like Sufis. I pray for my demons under the cold air. The suns are burning them layers inside me. Do you wanna see God? In Edmonton, we met Albert, a kebab restaurant owner, saw us struggling to carry the huge ass table we bought from Value Village, said he'll sell his bed and tables and sofas and kitchen equipment all for $500 because he's a rich man. She says, Ahmed, go and buy your son a house in Lebanon, you're rich. It's my money, you whore. I don't put in houses. I make them in stocks, hidden in tobacco and weed and all them haram shit. Because if you don't fuck them, they'll fuck you. But I saw you in hijab and we, good Muslims, we stay together. Eh, akhi? Reza said he'll make me saffron tea for my anxiety. Azizam, how can you see anxiety disappear like reds and yellows in black tea? I told my Baba about anxiety. He said the choice is there to return. I left. Many times before you were born, I would get into fights and quit once someone shattered a half beer bottle on my head. I was knocked out cold on cold ground and woke up still outside there, lying on Dundas Street with white paint on my skin and dirt in my shirt. I was a painter, remember, people see that. Blood in my ear, I saw break and come out dry. Bismillah, Maman said while FaceTiming as I insert the tweezer in my ear and pull out What's that white and black bird on the balcony? A magpie, you see this little hair? Wow, the sirens there, like Tehran during war, warning us to hide underground when the bombs would blow and the city would glitch nature to oil like that magpie behind the glass door, unfazed and eating what looks like crow. And how this little hair was louder inside me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was so powerful. And last but not least, for our final performance for the evening, or rather reading, my apologies, I would like to invite Riz V. Rose to the stage. Riz is a 22-year-old poet and fiction writer based in Hamilton, Ontario. A daydreamer, she spends her time in the world of imagination and writing about her emotions and experiences. She also enjoys singing and playing music, working her way through her massive to-read list and learning about nature, astronomy, and astrology. Let's welcome Riz.
Hi everyone, I'm Riz. First, I just want to say a quick thank you to Tali and the whole Soapbox team for having me tonight. I've been collaborating with them for probably 4 years, and it's always such a great time with them. So I'm super excited about these new open mics, and I feel very grateful to have gotten to be a part of the first two. Hopefully more in the future as well. I also want to congratulate everyone who's been reading tonight. The pieces have been all so amazing. It's really been an incredible experience. The two pieces I will be reading tonight are on opposite ends of the happy scale, let's say. The first is very hard and heavy and dark, and the second one is very light. I chose that adjective on purpose because that second one is from my fourth collection called Let There Be Light, but we'll get there. The first piece is from my third collection, Wildflowers, which explored how different situations and experiences and people could be turned into flowers and other things in nature. In this case, things like an apple or a storm. It's called Missing You. The missing you hit tonight, like an apple falling from a tree, so heavy and strong, sinking lower and lower until it snaps, taking the branch down with it. The tree sighs, relieved of the weight, while the apple plunges, lands in the flower garden below, and decimates. The missing you hit tonight, like a train racing full speed down the tracks into a wall, demolishing the poor, unsuspecting pile of stone, pieces of gray soaring into the air and shattering once again on the ground. The missing you hit tonight, like a bomb whistling its hymn of destruction as it flies in reverse until it makes impact with anything solid, concluding its song with a deafening cacophony and total annihilation of anything in its proximity. The missing you hit tonight like a diver breaking the surface and entering the aftermath, like a batter smashing the ball and shattering the bat, like a storm rolling menacingly from the distance and crackling with electricity, its cloud weighted and ready to detonate. The missing you hit tonight like a single tear, weighted with its context, sliding cool and cruel down an innocent cheek, off a trembling chin, and towards the floor, where it ruptures and leaves a stain. A permanent reminder. A single tear, calamitous in its gentleness and catastrophic in its silence. The second one, as I said, is from my fourth collection, Let There Be Light. This collection explored the many different definitions and forms of light and how we use them as metaphors for happiness. This piece is about being hopeful for the future, achieving everything you set your mind to achieve, both big and small, and finding light and lightheartedness in getting back to nature and being one with your surroundings. It's called The Finer Things in Life. I lower myself into a warm tub of sweet wine and get drunk off the steam. I dry myself off with sheets of paper, leaving ink smudges on my skin like semi-permanent tattoos. I sing loudly to myself as I walk through my home, bare-bodied, barefooted, leaving behind pieces of soaked paper like a trail of breadcrumbs in the forest leading to a house of gingerbread and gumdrops. The flooring that I chose is cold beneath my feet. The windows are open, and through them I see nothing but treetops. The wind lifts the leftover pink bath water from my skin and swirls it around me like magic dust, and the crickets and lightning bugs make their way inside to dance with the droplets. As I tuck myself in, I wish on a shooting star, the moon kisses me goodnight, and I fall asleep clutching the galaxy to my chest. In the morning, the sun will rise, and in the daylight, the flowers will grow, and I will reach down to greet them all, one by one. It's quiet. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Riz. That was fantastic. And thank you so much to everyone who read for us this evening. I feel so privileged to be here tonight with all of you and listening to so many talented writers. So thank you all. I hope we're all clapping like this in front of our computers and looking a little silly, but the feeling is very, very much there. Oh, so that brings our TSB First Friday, October edition, to a close. This is a monthly open mic, so we would love for you to join us again. Our next TSB First Friday will be on Friday, November 6th. If you would like to perform, then keep an eye out on our social media, as the sign-up link will go live in a week or two. And of course, if you don't yet, then please give us a follow at The Soapbox Press on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter so you can stay up to date on all that we have going on. If you enjoyed tonight's event, then you might also enjoy an event that we have coming up on Monday, October 5th from 7 to 8 p.m., where Patty M. Hall will be in conversation with Maria Much. They'll be talking about Patty's memoir, Loving Large, and diving deep into the writing process. The conversation will be followed by an interactive 30-minute Q&A. So if you're interested, then check out our website and reserve your free spot. So that's all that we have for you this evening. Thank you so, so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a great weekend, and we hope to see you again very, very soon.